So, I want to talk today about cancel culture. And why am I doing this? Well, because I've wanted to do a video about how my own side cannibalizes itself for a long time. I'm a socialist, and I want to see us make some kind of progress before I die, but oftentimes I see people take would-be allies and throw them under the bus for everything, or immediately throw away people who they've loved or who they've worked with in the past because of a single disagreement or shit like that. So, man, I don't know if this is TOS or not, but we're going to find out. We're going to roll that dice. This one is a fan art from Crazy Cat. Fan art I made for Suris. Thank you for speaking out on so many issues that matter. It's inspired hope in a lot of viewers. I like this art. I like this art. It's very good. It's very good. Yes, boobs. The next one we have here is from Bicornosaurus. I made Suris as a Nekomata. Thank you very much for that. The next one we have here is from Knitted Cryptic. All I wanted was Suris in a braid, and it ended up like this. I think it looks cute. I think it does too. I think it does too. Kiranis, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown on a future video, the best way to do so is to drop into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing over on YouTube, hitting the like button and the bell notification icon. Sarah Chikorita says, put a bar over it before uploading it if you want to be safe. I don't want to be safe. I want to be brave. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about this. So, when I talk about the left eating itself, what am I meaning here? Well, what I mean is, on the right, while there is and are elements of cancel culture on the right, obviously, religion being more right-wing here in the States as it was co-opted by conservatism, being one of the biggest purveyors of that. If you happen to do something that doesn't align with the religion, say like being gay, being shunned is a form of canceling. It's exactly what that is. But I'm not here to talk about that right now. I'm here to talk about something for us. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Brioche's thread, because again, this is going to be my guidepost for most of this. Brioche says, I hate this aspect of the left. The aspect of permanent cancellation. The idea that if someone does something or says something quite messed up, that they're completely finished and have no chance to redeem themselves. People, we've got to talk about cancel culture. Before the thread continues, I want to go ahead and give my 2 cents on this. I've noticed a trend where if you say something, because this has happened to me ages ago, if you say something for or against a particular social topic or, in any way, someone will go and hunt down things that you said years ago, months ago, things you said sometimes at a moment of weakness, and will use those to disparage you. I mean, on the one hand, it's an ad hominem attack, obviously, but on the other hand, as an example, years ago, when I was driving with Raz to take her to work, we actually had a deer run in front of the car, and it broke its neck. Like, it ran right in front of the car, and the front right-hand part of our car just got completely clocked and messed up. Now, the car still ran, thankfully, but the deer, they're toast. They're largely toast. And I called the deer the R slur. Now, this was just a thing that happened, and when I posted about it on Facebook, this is also before I learned a whole lot about how that term made people feel. For me, as being somebody who did a lot of gaming and internet stuff, this was just normal shit that was in my vocabulary at the time, before I worked it out of my vocabulary. Now, a person, who I'm not going to name for obvious reasons, ended up saying something, and I ended up coming and, if memory serves, I was even agreeing with them. But I guess this idea in their head was someone on the internet has said something, I need to go look at their past real quick. And they found the post where I had called a deer the R slur. And just went on this whole rant about how I was a terrible person for using that word and how I don't have any right to talk because I used that word. And it was a hurtful conversation. And then it was to the point where later on, when they forgot who I was, I remembered who they were. So when I saw them at a gaming convention selling their wares, I saw stuff at their shop, but I refused to buy anything from them because I remembered that moment. They had no recollection of who I was, and I'm perfectly fine keeping it that way. So, but did you eat the deer? No. No. This idea that we can just do shit like that, I understand where it comes from. I understand that we need to use people's histories in order to determine the type of person that they are. Their actions speak louder than words, and sometimes their words can be deemed as their own type of action. But this idea that we just drudge shit up from people's past and throw it at them at the first sign of conflict, or something that wasn't even supposed to be conflict, but I later learned this person was neurodivergent, and apparently what was not thrown out as conflict on my end was still seen as conflict on their end. So, that's not the only experience I've had with this behavior. I've also had this experience with Essence of Thought, where they have apparently a catalog of all of the wrongs I've done to the trans community. And there was a time where I actually said, and I think I've got a screenshot of it. Don't feel like bringing it up right now, though. Where I said, okay, what are the things I have to do to apologize for my actions? And then they brought, like, all of these things I had done and said that I need to make recompense for. And it was to the point where it felt like, okay, but even if I do all these things, it'll only be recompense to you, not the trans community. So why? Why bring all of that up? Well, I think the reason is this is the issue with how we view canceling people. So let's take a look here. Brioche goes on to say, I'm talking about real cancel culture, not what the far right calls cancel culture, like breaking TOS and getting banned. Real cancel culture punishes remorse. So you do the messed up thing. You made an edgy joke 2 years ago and you're still shunned over it. The cancel cultists are trying to tear down your support structures to punish you for your crime, but it was never malicious. You were just ignorant of the impact. You didn't have the upbringing that made you sensitive to the more problematic aspects of the joke. And whilst some people may tell you politely, that's a bit messed up, dude, here's why, being open to helping you improve, most people will start dogpiling you up the ass, and some bigger account will then get involved and blow up a passive nothing into something detrimental. You just want to move on, but now that you have an army of people who won't let you, even after you apologize and promise concrete steps to improve what you'll do and make a strong argument to commit to these improvements, they'll continue to attack you. So before I go on, I want to give an example of this. So I have people, I had a instance where a particular person said that I had committed violence against the trans community. And their reasoning for it, that what they considered violence was me not taking a firm enough stance on trans women in sports. Despite the fact that when I did my video on trans women in sports, I deliberately came down saying, no, trans women should be allowed to compete in the sport that they are allowed to. If you care so much about these biological things, then actually divide things on those biological measures, not on gender, not on sex, but on the actual bits of biology that matter. The same way that we actually divide weight classes in things like wrestling. And I don't want to say this person's name, or the video that was done on me by another person, but the idea that I was transphobic was thrown out. And if you want to believe that, that's fine. I don't care, because my job is not to convince you about me. And I'm using personal anecdote here because I feel like I have to. Were I not to use personal anecdote here, this conversation would be entirely in the hypothetical. Axolotls of Korean, thank you for redeeming your points for an fucking degen. I don't think this conversation has the same impact when it's purely hypothetical. So, why did various people have those opinions about me and what I had said and done? Because of essence of thought. Because there was one creator who was very public on Twitter about how they viewed how I operated, how they viewed me and my intentions and what I was doing. Sacker says, wasn't your end thought sports are less important than the trans people being able to plan them? Yep. So, over time, I started noticing a ramping up of people who I knew were either friends of or followed EOT, bringing this stuff to my heel constantly, to the point where a couple years later, after I thought that this was all done, I had various people come and give me all kinds of shit for things I had said in the past, doing the whole, like, this you thing. Abalon of Babylon says, I saw something about this recently. A person made a joke that wasn't meant to come off as offensive and had been open and about things, but thousands of people were attacking them, calling them transphobic, a liar, and treating it like it was malicious. Any harm it caused is real, but this doesn't make it okay, or doesn't make it malicious. It doesn't give anyone the right to treat them as such. So, my experience with this was having someone come and tell me that I had committed violence against the trans community. In so doing, when I defended myself, because they said it publicly on Twitter, I got shamed for defending myself against them because I was the larger creator and I shouldn't be allowed to defend myself against them because that will create a hate mob against them. Somehow, arbitrarily having more numbers on Twitter.com made it to where I had to accept, which I still don't and did not then, the reality that someone could harass me and I just had to take it. I find that position stupid now, and I found that position stupid then. So they double victim themselves? Apparently. So, what do you do in a situation like this? Well, again, I tried to do the thing where I explained or asked, what do I do to make up for my transgressions? And then, of course, was given a giant list of things that I had done wrong that I need to apologize for and the ways I need to do it. And if I did it all very correctly, then definitely everything would be forgiven. But that would only be by one person, not by the trans community as a whole. So, why the fuck do it? Instead, I would rather just comport myself as I do now, not giving two flying shits what somebody says about me, and letting my actions speak. I'm not going to capitulate. Wasting energy on others, other than rich people, is bad. But I sometimes worry about people finding my old post where I was a dumb, edgy kid and use it as a gotcha against me. That's the thing. People will do that. They'll dig up stuff you said from years ago and turn it into a mess. So, let's go ahead and continue with Brioche's thing, but I wanted to give, and I know it's really vague, but I do not want there to be another scenario where somebody goes, you brought all of this hate onto this person again after admitting that you did it once before. Look at you. You're a monster. No, I'm going to be vague. People who saw the tweets when they did years ago will remember them. People who don't, we're here. Anyway. So, Oh, and you, let's go ahead and read here. This isn't a passive nothing apology. It's one that is very constructive, setting out a plan and changes you'll make to become a better person. And even with this, they'll continue to brigade you and say that your apology wasn't sincere or that this was a ploy to get the haters off your back. Oh, you only apologize because you got backlash for it. If it wasn't for that, you'd still be a piece of shit. So now I'm going to treat you like a piece of shit. This cancel culture punishes vulnerability and prevents redemption as a result. I'm gonna... Sorry. No. Reach for the Stars is great, but it's not the song for this. Anyways. I do agree that this is an issue here. When you do show that you have changed, when you do show things like that, they'll go, well, you only did that because we made you do that. Okay, cool, but I still did it, right? Then shut the fuck up. I don't judge people based on their past. I judge them based on who they are now. If I can see an honest attempt to move past the bad things they've done in the past, they should be cheered on, not scolded for once holding bad political views or making an edgy joke. We don't do this for other issues. We don't say to an overweight person who used to be morbidly obese, oh, you were morbidly obese. Do you think you deserve praise for being overweight still? We all know how much this destroys a person's motivation to improve. Yet, when it comes to political views, there's a shitload of people on the left that do this. You'll have a 20-year-old who was exposed 2 years ago to being an alt-righter, yet now they're a leftist, and instead of being congratulated for pulling themselves out of the far right, they're instead vilified for their past beliefs that they no longer hold and are gate-kept out of the left by these people. Minor problematic views they still hold as a relic of their time in the alt-right are magnified. To them, it's as if they are still fully in the alt-right. I have seen this happen. Again, I don't want to name names of creators because that would create its own issues, but I have seen people who have moved from right-wing beliefs, from fundamentalism. I've seen people move from those positions to much more liberal and much more left-wing positions now, and yet those people are purity tested. Oh, well, you believe in XYZ, so you must still be bad. People are nuanced. People have a ton of beliefs, some of them contradictory, that they hold at any given time. If somebody had 99 terrible, misogynistic, awful beliefs, and now they have 50 of them, that is still improvement. That is still improvement to be celebrated. So I fell in the conservative rabbit hole back in the 2010s. A lot of people did. A lot of people did. Any attempt for anyone on the right to reform and improve themselves is slapped down as insincerity. Once an alt-righter, always an alt-righter. Whatever you do, you can't shake that. Even if you change every single one of your political beliefs and behaviors, it doesn't matter. When it comes to criminal justice, leftists generally get it. You did the crime, you served your time, you deserve a second chance. Leftists are generally very pro-rehabilitative justice in support of prison reforms that give access to skills and training for prisoners. However, when it comes to political beliefs, the pro-rehabilitation side for many shuts off and becomes a complete anathema to them. Convicted murderer served his term, released on good behavior, give him a second chance. Former alt-right edgelord 20-year-old, fully irredeemable. I actually don't get it. You believe in people growing and improving. So why is this specific situation do you do the complete opposite to that and invoke this culture of cancellation against people whose crimes are nowhere near as severe as people that you forgive? The whole once a fascist, always a fascist thing is essentialist to its core and leaves no room for growth. If they're going to get kicked off the ladder anyway, why the fuck should they climb at all? What reason have you given them to become better people? And this is the thing, I know what the immediate response to this is going to be. Somebody's going to look at that and go, you shouldn't be trying to become a better person for its own rewards. You should be trying to become a better person for you, for yourself. And you know, I get that. But human beings do not always have those types of incentives that work for them. If somebody's safe community is a fascist one, a Groiper hellhole, but that's their comfort zone, and they try to move out of that comfort zone, and they get bashed, and they get harmed, and they get disparaged when they are trying to become a better person, what reason do they have to keep going? What reason do they have to become a better person? They only have reason for self-preservation. They only have reason to do things that help themselves. If we can't provide incentives for them to leave that fucking fashy right-wing bubble, then what the fuck are we doing? This is why I prefer to allow people who come in and are insulting and disparaging and awful, I prefer to have them be in my community, because I want my community to be one of positivity. And it can't be one of positivity if we literally force anything negative out. You've got to show people that what you're doing is better. The way you comport yourself is better. It is nicer. It is kinder. It is more worthwhile. You've got to give them a reason to go to the other fucking side. Instead, you're punishing them for trying to become better. Many people end up in bad places because of the community. They want to belong to something. So why not instead give them a community that is better than the one they're in currently? And then, of course, there's me going, hey, mind if I use this in a video about how the left eats itself? Because it's not just that. This is where I've got to jump off of this and now talk about something tangentially related, but still important. It's not just people who try to move from the right to the left that need to be talked about here. It's this notion that I've seen where people in political spaces are friends with each other up until they fuck up once. And when they fuck up once, suddenly they are thrown out of the bubble and never brought in. Never brought back. I had a friend once, a very good friend of mine, whom I will not say because this person has specifically requested me never speak about them ever again. But I'm going to speak about my experiences. I just won't use their name. When the Non Sequitur show started to die, when it started to platform more right-wing extremists, when it started to go through the metamorphosis that would ultimately lead to what it is now, which is a giant nothing burger, when that happened, I spoke out initially in support of keeping the show on, but I spoke to the person who made the decision to have these right-wing idiots on the show that I didn't think that having, say, a right-wing nationalist on the show was a good idea. I don't think that that's responsible platforming. Stuff? Thank you for redeeming your points for an Arahara. You fucking degen. Anyway, I spoke out about my disagreements. That the show should still continue, but the show should not have been able to keep on platforming right-wing extremists, because that's dangerous. You're not always going to get the best person on to debate them and show that they're wrong. You're just going to get people like a Nubian who comes in and makes me say, oh, well, good people, but still. But still. When that happened, this friend started posting online anytime that Non-Sec would go live, that they were live streaming instead. Basically trying to showcase that, you know, don't worry, the better show that doesn't platform idiots is... this one is on too. Come over here, don't go over there. And in DMs, mind you, not live, but in DMs, I said, hey, what you're doing feels a little virtue signaling. It by definition, that's what it is. You are signaling to people your virtue, how you're better than this other show, than this other thing. And that caused them to go off on me. And it wasn't the first time they had gone off on me and broken our friendship. This was the first time that it was permanent. They've been editing him out of all the old videos. Yeah, that makes sense. For the Try Guys stuff. Look at Shadow. Thank you for... Fucking hell. Thank you for redeeming your points, but not for that. Fucking degenerate 50,001 channel points gone down the drain, so Blue Cat Shadow can hear me go, ooh. There. You happy? You happy now? Anyway. In my attempt to give honest critique to this friend about how they were comporting themselves in this scenario, and I still hold to that, I lost a friendship. And that was, of course, stoked because they had EOT in their ear. But none of that's super important. The important part is that I saw this happen. I've had this happen multiple times. The longer I've been the longer I'm a creator, the longer I watch people cannibalize their own. The more time that I see people who are otherwise allies in every way, shape, or form throw each other under the bus because of various disagreements instead of talking shit out. And it happens more and more and more often. And maybe it doesn't necessarily actually happen more often. Maybe it's just that as I am a creator, as I'm watching these communities grow, I'm watching them fracture. I watched the atheist community fracture twice. And I know that people like Logic have watched it fracture even more times than that. I've watched leftist communities fracture multiple times. I have watched people drop creators who I still work with and I still consider friends over things they've said years ago or things that have been taken out of context constantly. What kind of an environment are we building for ourselves if we're constantly tearing it down, trying to make it more and more pure? The understanding should be there from the get-go that we are not going to be able to create that pure environment. And numbers, having more people pragmatically working with us, has a better chance of making us reach our shared goals. If you have a goal of making the world a better place for trans people, and 3 other people have that same goal, as long as your methods align a little bit, as long as one of you is not being, a piece of fucking true scum, y'all can work together. So what if one of them has an edgy take they said a year ago? Address that as you address it, but that doesn't mean immediately drop them. Drop people when they become too toxic. Drop people when they become too dangerous. But don't drop them because of a single disagreement or a single thing that was said years ago. I watch left-leaning communities consume themselves repeatedly over this need to be ideologically pure. I left that type of comporting myself when I left religion. So could we not keep doing that shit? I've seen this recently with fucking ContraPoints. Went on Hillary Clinton's show. And yeah, you can say like, oh, why did she go onto the Clinton show? Why did she do that? That's bad. That's bad. No. You don't understand. One of the largest trans creators on our platform went onto a politician's show to talk about things. Trans issues, left-related issues, doesn't matter, went on to talk. And people who spent their time trying to purity test Contra, trying to go, no, she shouldn't have done that. Don't you understand? This means X, Y, and Z. No, the fuck it doesn't. Bernie Sanders going on to Fox News or going on to Joe Rogan's podcast doesn't suddenly mean that he's evil or he's turned to the dark side or some shit. That's not how this works. And yet we have this knee-jerk reaction to people doing these things. It whittles what the left is down to where we are so thoroughly compartmentalized that we can't get shit done when the left wing of politics is supposed to be the one of mutual aid and fucking unions. Yeah, hot take. Stop purity testing. So, with all that said, Maybe it would be easier for us to construct better, more positive communities if we weren't so busy tearing each other down. But that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But maybe you want to go down there and tell me how I'm actually a terrible person for trying to eliminate what you consider to be your safest space. I can understand that, and I can see where you're coming from. But I don't think political spaces will necessarily ever be the most safe and comfortable ones. And that sucks. But it's also reality. With that said, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Patreon's a thing. Insert end of video tagline here.